Welcome to another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies, and in this video, I'm going to do a review of the Bunnahabhain 12-year-old Cask Strength Islay Single Malt Scotch Whisky. So this video is part of a series that I'm doing and studying for the Level 2 with the Council of Whiskey Masters, in which I do a focus on distilleries and go much more in depth than I normally do on the history of the distillery. So before I get into this whiskey, here is a little bit about the history of Bunnahabhain Distillery and this whiskey. Bunnahabhain Distillery is located on the north end of the Isle of Islay near Port Ascaig. In 1881, William Robinson of Robinson and Baxter founded Bunnahabhain Distillery along with brothers William and James Greenless, owners of Islay Distillers Company Limited. In 1883, production started at Bunnahabhain Distillery. In 1887, Islay Distillers Company Limited merged with William Grant and Company in order to form Highland Distillers Company Limited. In 1963, 2 new stills were added to bring the total to 4. In 1982, Bunnahabhain Distillery was closed. In 1984, Bunnahabhain Distillery reopened. A 21-year-old was released to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Bunnahabhain Distillery. In 1999, Edrington took over Highland Distillers Company Limited and mothballed Bunnahabhain Distillery, but allowed a few weeks of production per year. In 2001, a 35-year-old was released during Fish Ale, the Islay Whiskey Festival. In 2002, Auld Acquaintance 1968 was launched at the Islay Jazz Festival. In 2003, Edrington sold Bunnahabhain and a black bottle to Burn Stewart Distilleries for £10 million. And a 40-year-old was launched. The remainder of Bunnahabhain history from 2004 to 2019 is a long series of special releases. Many of the bottles have Gaelic names and are difficult to pronounce. In 2004, the first limited edition of the 6-year-old Monya peated version was released. In 2005, 3 limited editions were released, a 34-year-old, an 18-year-old, and 25-year-old. In 2006, a Bunnahabhain 14-year-old Pedro Jimenez is released and a 35-year-old was launched. In 2008, Dark was released for travel retail market, and Tuaitich, a 10-year-old peated, was launched on a few select markets. In 2010, the peated Cruach Mona, which is Gaelic for peat stack, and a limited 30-year-old was released. In 2013, the Bunnahabhain 40-year-old was released. In 2014, and I have no idea how to pronounce this, so I'm going to take a shot at it, the Erik Wait, which means morning sky, and Sino Banach Smoky Mist was released. In 2007, the Monya Oloroso Struder Helmsman and Anne Codnock was released. In 2018, the Toitek Gras and 20-year-old Palo Cantado was released. In 2019, a brandy finish and a 1988 Marsala finish was released. The Bunnahabhain 12-year-old Cask Strength Islay Single Malt Scotch Whisky is aged in ex-bourbon and ex-sherry cask. It's unchill filtered, has natural color. It's bottled at 55.1% alcohol by volume and sells for about $82 retail on release. However, with low supply and high demand, I'm sure it is now selling for a lot more. So this is the Bunnahabhain 12-year-old, widely available, bottled at 46.3% alcohol by volume. It is one of my favorite Islay whiskeys, one that I recommend quite often. Probably the Ardbeg 10-year-old and the Bunnahabhain 12-year-old are my favorites. This is my 3rd bottle. So when I'm looking to recommend a sherry cask or an Islay whiskey, this is one that I most often recommend. But here we have the Cask Strength version. And when I heard about this one, I knew I absolutely had to get a bottle of this. This is a dangerously delicious whiskey. It's one of those whiskeys which, after you have it, you kind of need to hide it somewhere in your collection, because every time you come back to your whiskeys, this is the one you're going to want to grab. It is absolutely superb. Now, what's the difference between cask strength and the regular? You might think that a cask strength version of another bottle is simply the same thing, just more intensified or louder volume, but you would be wrong. Something in the process of bringing it down from cask strength down to bottling strength, say 46, something gets lost in the translation. Now, don't get me wrong. The regular bottle of Bunnahabhain 12 is absolutely fantastic. Love it. It's a favorite whiskey of mine. However, the cask strength has so much more going on, and not just a matter of sort of alcohol punch. There are more layers of flavor. There are more, say, savory notes than the regular bottle of the 12-year-old. So get like a barbecue sauce. It has classic sherry cask, fig, dates, raisins. There's almost like an almond roca going on there. That's a chocolate and almond candy. Caramel, vanilla, the inner parts of a Snickers bar. Now, there's a very, very slight sulfury note, slight smoky note that I know when I first experienced the 12-year-old, I thought it had maybe a minute amount of peat to it, maybe 3 ppm, but I was wrong. It doesn't have any peat in it. It is just a slight smoky sulfury note from the sherry cask, and that is intensified on the cask strength, and I like it. It's not like a egg sulfury note or a fart or a burnout catalytic converter. It's just a slight waft, maybe like a match that was struck and has gone out. It's also got some real nice honey notes. It has a marmalade, almost like a burnt orange character, a little bit of saltiness, hints of light chocolate and caramel on the palate. It is silky, mouth coating, has a fantastic development. Starts off sweet on the front. That saltiness kicks in about 3/4 of the way back. More savory notes, barbecue notes show up on the back end. Again, if I was tasting this blind, I might think there was just a little bit of peat there, but there isn't, because it is sort of barbecue smokiness on the back end. Some really nice spice notes. Now, a sherry cask can sort of say like the Lafroig 10 sherry cask finish, just be sort of right up on your face with the spice note. This is the way I like it, just a hint of spice, perhaps a little bit of pepper, maybe a little bit of cinnamon and other baking spices on the back end, and it is rich all the way through. It's sweet, it's rich, and it's savory. Now, because it is cask strength, I do want to put 2 teaspoons of water, just 2 teaspoons of water. I tried this on ice, and it does nice on ice. I know some people get upset when I mention ice, but if you're in sunny California or Texas or somewhere where it's really, really warm, or it's in summertime, you might want to try something on ice, and this does really, really well. Sometimes some whiskeys can sort of thin out too much when you put them on ice, or you lose too much in the dropping of the temperature of the whiskey, but this just fine. There is a sort of an oily texture to it, and the cask characteristics sort of get amplified when put on ice, but I gotta say, I prefer it with just 2 teaspoons of water. Give it a nice little turn, no shaky, and give it just a couple minutes and come back to it.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Now those chocolate notes, that Snicker bar character, the saltiness, the little chocolate, and the peanuts is really starting to amp out. I would say the sulfury, smoky note is sort of faded away, and it's becoming more candy-like. The almond roca character has come around. The saltiness is still there. I would say fig dates and rates. The fig dates and the rates. Fig dates and the raisins, or the rakes, whatever you want to call it, has sort of faded a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm having a Biden moment here.
I was going to excuse me.
Don't mean to get political. But I'm really getting that chocolate character going on there. All right, on the pot. Nice and sweet up front. It's velvety. The chocolate, the nuts, and the saltiness have sort of gone up a little bit. Any sulfury notes have completely gone away. Caramel, nougat, the dried black fruit notes, you know, the dates, the rakes, and the raisins. They're all in there. It's absolutely fantastic. The finish on this, and that's one of the key things for me, is the finish. Really long finish, even with a couple of teaspoons of water. I'm still tasting it now. It's got the depth, it's got the complexity, it's got the length of finish, everything I'm looking for in a whiskey. Well, what I give it in terms of score, I'm gonna go a solid 95 points, a solid 95 points. This is absolutely superb. My only regret is when I bought this one, I should have bought 2 or more, because this is absolutely superb. If you can find a bottle of this, I highly recommend it. All right, that's for... I'm top. All right, that's it for this video. If you subscribe to this channel, I want to thank you very much. If you've not yet subscribed, but you like watching my videos, actually subscribe, ring the bell, give it a thumbs up, and until next time, Slanjiva. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and check out these other whiskey videos.